we have a reading of The Country Mouse and the City Mouse. Illustrated by Lillian Obligato. One day, as Country Mouse was filling his wheelbarrow with a load of ripe grain, he saw a visitor picking her way daintily down the lane. It was his cousin, City Mouse. Country Mouse was delighted to have company. He ran to a secret hole and brought out nuts and dried corn. From his pantry, he took some apple cores and bits of dry bread and leftover from the farmer's lunch. Then Country Mouse spread out a tasty picnic on a smooth, clean toadstool table. But his visitor just picked at her food, looking a bit disappointed. Afterward, they sat chatting in the cozy parlor. City Mouse sighed and shook her head. "You poor thing," she said. "What a sad way to live, with only scraps and dried leftovers to eat. Now in the city, I make my merry way from one delicious feast to the next. Why don't you come to the city with me and see how good life can be?" Country Mouse said, "Oh no, I am very well off right here." But that night, when both cousins were tucked away under cozy scrap calico coverlets, Country Mouse found that he could not sleep for thinking of all he might be missing in his quiet country home. So next day, as City Mouse set out for home, Country Mouse was at her side. At the end of the farm lane, Country Mouse looked down the wide road. "It must be a very long walk to the city," he said. "Walk?" City Mouse laughed. "You silly thing. We'll ride, of course." She ran to a truck that was parked beside the road. The driver was eating his lunch in the shade of a big tree. "Follow me," said City Mouse, and they scrambled up to the tailgate of the trunk. What a thrilling ride that was for Country Mouse, who had never been beyond the farm lane. The truck bounced steadily down the highway. It sped past fields and streams, rounded hills and green woods. Off in the distance, the farmhouses looked tiny and mouse-sized. But as the cousins neared the city, more and more cars went whizzing by. From the tailgate, Country Mouse looked out over a wide bridge. He had never seen so many ships and planes and buildings. The air was filled with noise and smoke. Country Mouse coughed and rubbed his eyes. "Don't worry," said City Mouse. "We will soon be in the city." On a street where tall buildings towered above them, City Mouse cried, "Here we are!" Down she jumped. Her country cousin closed his eyes and jumped too. Country Mouse trembled as he followed his cousin, who didn't seem to care about the big pounding feet on the city sidewalk. At last, they reached the safety of a great house. From the window sill, Country Mouse could see a most scrumptious feast. "It's all for us," said City Mouse proudly. The cousins quickly darted into the house and up onto the enormous table. "This is how we eat in the city," said City Mouse with a wave of her paw. And what a feast it was! Country Mouse nibbled at a rich and crumbly cheese. He sipped a few bubbly drops from a tall, sparkling glass. He licked a delicious pudding-coated spoon. Then he bit into a candied cherry. Suddenly, he heard a frightful snarl. It was a cat! As the big green-eyed cat glared over the tabletop, the two little mice ran for their lives. City Mouse raced for the safety of her mouse hole and vanished inside. But Country Mouse could not follow her. The cat was waiting outside the hole, waving his tail and twitching his whiskers hungrily. For a long time, Country Mouse hid in the shadow of a chair leg. Then at last he scampered away, right past the nose of a gigantic sleeping dog. The dog heard the click-click of tiny feet and opened one sleepy eye. A stranger in his house. Growl. Grr. What a chase there was then. Country Mouse ran as fast as he could, behind the drapes and up onto the windowsill. Over the chairs, under tables, behind the drapes, and up onto the windowsill. Country Mouse raced along the city sidewalk, over the bridge, down the road, past fields and streams, and straight up to the familiar farm lane. Finally, tired but happy, Country Mouse snuggled down beneath his very own scrap calico coverlet, in his own little bed, in his country home, and he never left the country again. The end.